Hey everyone, welcome back to the Neo Marketing Podcast. Today we're going to talk about when to fire and hire the correct client for you. Okay everyone, hey, Kyle Golding back on the Neo Marketing Podcast. I'm the CEO and Chief Strategic Ideals for the Golden Group. I'm here with my man Pritchard, the Chief Strategic Counsel for the Golden Group. And today we're talking about something that a lot of professionals have a hard time with, Pritch. When to say yes and no to prospective clients, and when to let a client go that you're already working with because it's just not working.
More often than you'd think. In fact, we just covered this in my campaigns class last week and went through a list of 26 characteristics that we would love to see in clients. The interesting part about that is that we should also see those in us so that we can have that
true
relationship.
What I find is when I talk to young professionals, probably the people closer to coming right out of the university, is they're afraid of turning down an opportunity. They're afraid of saying no to someone who they may have to circle back to in their career. But what they don't realize is, and this is where the meat of this conversation is, working with someone that you don't have the right combination with, the right fit, if you will.
Yep.
At the end of the day, it doesn't do them any service and it doesn't do you any service. You're better off by saying to someone, you know what you're looking for and what I can provide for you is not exactly right, is the best thing for both parties in order to create a relationship that's equitable. And what happens is if you go into it with, hey, I hear what you're saying, but I kind of want to move you in a different direction. You know, kind of like when a young lady wants to fix a young man who maybe has potential but doesn't have everything right. It just ends up being less actual cohesive arrangement as opposed to saying to someone straight up, and it's hard because essentially you're saying, I don't want the paycheck that comes with working with you, and that's the very hard part.
Right.
You need to go and work with someone who's a little bit more adept or a little bit more focused on the areas you need focus in, right?
Right, exactly. It is all about fit, and communication is at the top of that. If we're not communicating, quickly, if we're not agile, one of the things that I see a lot and we put our clients under review every year at the end of the semester to make sure that we have that fit. But one of the things that drives everybody crazy is the client who is a micromanager or so resistant to change that you can't move anything forward. And that kind of leads us to the next piece of this podcast, and that is, can you fire a client?
Absolutely you can, and it sounds funny to say firing the client, but it's essentially the same thing as if you were to leave a job. You know, if you're working for a boss that wasn't a great relationship for you for whatever reason, and you decided to either find a new job or just simply not work for them anymore, you quit. And if the boss decides you're not the right employee, the boss fires you. At the end of the day, it's the severance of your working relationship.
Yeah. It's
the same thing if you're a freelancer or you work in an agency and you have a client. You're firing them. You're severing the working relationship. You're saying, this isn't working for us. It isn't working for you, and so let's do something different. Number one, if you're listening out here and you're a freelancer, you're trying to run a small shop, and you're thinking, man, I would hate to have to fire a client. It'll happen. Clients are going to fire you, and you're going to fire them. It's just part of the game. It's just we're in a business that changes all the time. People change, goals change, what you're capable of providing for them changes. So, number one, accept the fact that clients will come and go. It doesn't make you terrible at your job. Right. It's just the nature of the game. Number two is when the nature of the game isn't good for you, when the scenario isn't working for you anymore, whether it's economics, whether it's conflict of personalities, whatever it is, you have the right to tell a client, this has been a great working relationship, but we're going to sever this relationship. For me, I like to give them a time period. I like to tell them if I'm working on something specific, like I'll finish this and then we'll be complete.
Kind of wean them off.
Absolutely. And then the best thing, and here's where being a professional comes in. Number one, it's just something that didn't work out. It's not like they didn't do something to you, it just didn't work out. So be professional, be polite and courteous, end it on a high note, be good friends. You're going to need a reference from them in the future. People are going to be talking about the work you did for them, and you'll be talking about it as well. But find them a scenario or situation, even if it's just some references to some other people who may fit what it is they're looking for. A great example is maybe if you're not as versed at, say, online or digital tools as someone else, maybe you're more of a PR professional, sending them to a digital shop, sending them someone who is a developer or someone who has those skills makes a lot of sense, and vice versa. If you're a web guy and you don't know anything about PR and the client really needs to be working with a PR professional, send them to a PR shop, send them to someone who is more versed in that. And even if it doesn't work out, they don't hire them or whatever, leaving someone with, here's a few references, here's some recommendations, or even, honestly, I don't know where to tell you, but I could tell you maybe the local chapter of your PRSA, if you're looking for a PR professional, if you're looking for a marketing professional, maybe AMA, you may be going to the local university. These are some suggestions you can make that make this breakup, this separation, a little bit easier to deal with, right?
I'd be remiss, it's September, and in PRSA, that's Ethics Month. Have you ever had to fire a client because of an ethical conflict?
I have a great story. I don't know if we can go into it today. I'm going to try anyways. I had a client that they billed themselves as a pharmaceutical company, but they were actually supplements, because there's a big difference in the FDA.
Right. Whole approval process.
Absolutely. And they were doing supplements which are not regulated by the FDA. They were very specific in their marketing, and at first I didn't really have a problem with, you could say this, but you can't say that. There were very specific things you could and could not do that would draw the ire of the FDA. But eventually, to make the long story short, they tried to convince me that they were going to run an ad campaign about curing cancer. With calcium supplements.
All righty.
Based on a Nobel Prize winning report from 1934. So
life's changed since then.
I told them right there on the spot, we'll be done, I'll quit, we won't work together. No 2 weeks notice, no anything. If you don't change your mind about this, that was to my boss. My boss took me to the legal department. The legal department told me they were covered. That's not the thing. We're talking about ethics and not legalities.
Exactly.
So I took all of them into the president's office. I said, do you even know this exists? He said, yes, this is my idea. And I said, thank you, I'm out.
Bye.
Packed my stuff up and left and never looked back. So that's a pretty clear, clean ethics violation right there. It's pretty easy to kind of hang your hat on that one. What have you seen that's been nearly as egregious as that, Pritch?
Well, the thing that has caused us to resign most of our clients is that they are just not responsive. They don't get back to you. They take forever to make a decision. I don't know if it's the student run part of it that they object to. Maybe they're just bad communicators.
I see it in my business too.
Right.
They want what they want when they want it, with no regard for your work process.
Right.
And then, of course, they don't do what you ask of them. And then when it doesn't work perfectly, who gets the blame?
Absolutely. You always hear about the ones you lose. And what's interesting is that going back to this discussion about what a good client looks like, those are the same. Those are exactly the same things they're looking for out of us.
Exactly.
So, cowboy up. Let's do the same thing. It's the golden rule.
Absolutely. We should act for them the way we want them to act for us. We're all professionals here, right?
Exactly.
Even if you're hiring a student agency, even your interns, you have to treat them like professionals. It's the workplace. We're all in this to be professionals, and no one's here to kind of mess around. We're not here to misuse their money and their efforts, and the same should go for them as well, right?
Absolutely.
That makes perfect sense. I think that's a great way to kind of sum up our episode today about hiring, firing, and working with the right client. My only real advice for you folks is it's scary the first time you do it. It's a lot easier after that.
Right. Yeah, the first time you're blooded in combat, it's always tough.
That's right.
But it gets easier after that.
Since I shared an ethic story with you, you shared one back with me. I think that's a good wrap up for today's show.
There you go.
Excited that you guys joined us once again for the New Marketing Podcast. We'll see you next time. Check us out on social media and online at thegoldengroup.com. Thanks.
Ciao.